we're going to look at units in this video. So let's start off by having you write down some units on your worksheet that you might see in your everyday life. So pause this video and write down at least 5. Okay, you might have come up with things like PSI, miles per hour, feet, yards, seconds, watts, or many other options. You need to have a good understanding of what types of units go with different measurements and how numbers with different units compare. For instance, which is faster, this car going 50 miles per hour or this one going 75 kilometers per hour? Or, which distance would you rather run in gym class? 500 meters, or 500 feet, or 500 yards? Or, which is hotter? 75 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or 75 Kelvin? And finally, would you rather weigh yourself in kilograms or pounds? Those are all comparing different units for one type of measurement: speed, distance, mass, and temperature. We will stick to metric units in this class, so things like pounds, miles per hour, feet, and yards will not be used. You can readily look up the conversions between them. Just for some good background knowledge, look up the conversions that are written on your worksheet. This should give you a good idea about how metric units compare to your everyday units. So let's take a closer look at these different types of units. There are 4 basic types of measurements that we will be using throughout the course of this class. You need to be able to know when to use the appropriate measurement: time, mass, temperature, and length or distance. This concept is usually very easy for people. Just don't try and tell me that the time it takes to wash your car is 500 meters instead of 500 minutes. Now what about a certain type of unit for a measurement, but with different prefixes? You need to be able to understand which number is larger or smaller. If you were in a hurry and there were 2 places to buy groceries, would you go to the store that was 50 kilometers away or 50 meters away? You need to understand what the prefixes to metric units mean. Here are all the metric prefixes for any metric unit. This means that they are not usually used for units like pounds and feet. There are a lot on this list that we will never use, like yada, exa, femto, atto, zepto, and so forth. We will tend to stick to the giga to nano region of the prefixes. Here are the prefixes that we use the most. Kilo. So kilo means 1,000, like there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Centi. This means there are 100 centimeters in a meter. Milli. There are 1,000 millimeters in a meter. And nano. There are 1 billion nanometers in 1 meter. Or 1 and 9 zeros. You will never have to memorize these, as they will be on your purple equation sheet. It will make your work faster though if you know these basic prefixes. Each one of these types of measurements has what's called an SI base unit. SI just means System International. It's an organization that sets the standards for all the different types of measurements. Just because it is a unit doesn't mean that it is official. For the 4 basic types of measurements that we will be covering right now, they each have a base unit. There are more base units, but we won't look at those right now. Here are the ones that we will be looking at in this chapter. Time has seconds. Mass is kilograms. Temperature is in kelvins, and length is in meters. All of those units should be familiar except for maybe the Kelvin. Kelvin is just like degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. We will measure in degrees Celsius in class, but kelvins is the actual SI unit. The Kelvin scale is just based differently, and a Kelvin is just abbreviated with a letter K. Also notice that the mass base unit is a kilogram, not the gram. So a base unit doesn't mean that it is without a prefix, just that it is only one unit. So let's look again at which car is going faster, the 50 miles per hour car or the 75 kilometers per hour car. Why wasn't speed mentioned as a base unit? Speed or velocity was not mentioned because it's not a base unit, it's what we call a derived unit. And this means that it contains multiple units like miles per hour, or grams per milliliter, or pounds per square inch. Anytime that you are measuring something with multiple units, we call that a derived unit. The most common of these are density and speed. Density is in grams per milliliter, meaning that it stands for so many grams of a substance per milliliter that the substance takes up. Speed or velocity is how many miles you can travel in 1 hour. A liter is also a derived unit, even though it may not look like it. Volume is actually a distance cubed, so we're going to have like centimeters cubed or millimeters cubed. So that is considered a derived unit. Anytime you have multiple units, whether it is the same unit or different units.